So my name's Shannon. I work at Mowi, Scotland as a graduate trainee manager, and I'm here today to talk about a career in aquaculture. So first of all, it's good to know what actually is aquaculture. It's also commonly known as fish farming. It is the breeding, rearing and harvesting of fish, shellfish, algae, and all sorts of other organisms that are found in all types of water environments. It's a relatively new industry compared to the likes of agriculture and mining and forestry. So there's plenty of areas of development and innovation throughout aquaculture. So why should you think about choosing a career in aquaculture? Well, first of all, there are multiple career paths within the industry. Fish farming requires many different types of professions. So my company alone at Mowi, Scotland, they reported that there were actually 74 different posts throughout the company. I'm not going to name all 74, but for example, you could work in the environmental team. These people are really important. They work alongside the likes of Marine Scotland and SEPA, and they work together before the fish farms even set in place to make sure that if we choose a location for a certain fish farm, is that okay? Will the environment there be okay? Will we be able to protect it enough? Are the tidal and current situations safe enough to grow and keep a good welfare of the stock? So after the environmental team, I've done a lot of hard work and planning and researching and kind of deals with government bodies. We eventually get the go ahead to create these fish farms. So once the fish farms are created, we'll be looking for farm technicians. So these people are responsible for the daily husbandry practices throughout the farm, ensuring that everything's running smoothly on the farm, that the fish are getting fed, that the nets are all secure, especially after any storms. Is there any damage? These people are responsible for basically just the overall containment and health and safety on the farm. Then aside from them, you could also possibly want a career in the health side of fish farming. So these health professionals and vets come on site and they assess the fish. They make sure the overall health and welfare is sound for the stocked fish, and they also have the ability to identify any potential issues or potential disease outbreaks, and they can advise us working on the farms what we need to do to contain this. And then completely different from that as well, working in aquaculture, you might want to work on some of the boats. So the boats range from small vessels to huge well boats that come from places like Norway as well. So in aquaculture, you may want to be a skipper or a deckhand on these boats. And then aside from the more practical aspect of the business, the likes of the IT team are really important in aquaculture, especially nowadays with the kind of booming of the technology in the industry. The IT team are so important to keep things running smoothly all across through all the operations. Finance as well, they're responsible for control and the budgeting of the organisations, and as well as them there's the marketing and media. So without marketing and media within the aquaculture industry, nobody would really know or be aware of our final products and stock products when they're available in our markets. Another reason why you might want to choose a career in aquaculture is just to simply see around the country more. The farms are in, some of the farms anyway, are in really remote locations that you would never really desire to go to, but when you get the chance to go there and work, there are really some lovely areas to work in. And finally, so there's an increasing demand worldwide for seafood. I've got a quote here from the General Director of the Food and Agricultural Organisation, or the FAO, and they say since 1961, the annual growth in fish consumption has been twice as high as population growth. So this demonstrates that the fishery and aquaculture sector is crucial in meeting the FAO's goal of a world without hunger or malnutrition. So, of course, to feed the nation, we want to try and produce as much protein sustainably as we can. So growing fish for a food source is one of the most eco-efficient and sustainable forms of protein. You can see it in this image here. I guess the water consumption and carbon footprint are maybe self-explanatory, but it mentions the feed conversion ratio, and this is an expression of how efficiently the farmed animal can convert its feed into body weight, so basically how efficiently it can grow. And you can see here salmon is really efficient in doing this compared to the likes of poultry and cattle. So opportunities to join the industry. So like I mentioned before, I'm on the graduate management programme. The company were looking for graduates with a willingness to learn and wanting to improve their studies, further study, take on the opportunities to join up more courses and training and take part in webinars and conferences with the likes of Marine Scotland and things like that. So that's how I actually got into the industry. There's also apprenticeships throughout the industry. The NAFC, who are the kind of marine version of UHI, they offer 3 stages of apprenticeships. Companies also do offer apprenticeships. Mowi, Scotland, or Marine Harvest at the time in 2013 first started their apprenticeships. There's also internships within the industry. The Scottish Aquaculture Innovation Centre, based in Stirling, have recently developed this programme. So it was a 10-week placement, which gives you the chance to develop skills and learn about the careers and the knowledge transfer from the internship into the aquaculture industry. And finally, just academia, so undergraduate and master studies. It's actually really common out on fish farms for universities and colleges to be involved. Even just now, for example, there's students working on site here, and at most farms you'll go to, and if you ask about students or any masters studies taking place, they will most likely say, yes, we've had students here taking samples of this, analysing this. So even just general academia is a really good way to get your foot into the door of aquaculture. So key skills, like any other sector, communication is really important. Some days if you're working out at sea, the weather might be a bit wild, you really need to work as a team, keep everybody safe and just communicate. So organisational skills as well, more of in a management point of view, but it's really important for the company to update and keep on top of policies. And this is really important to update files and keep on top of all the paperwork side of things as well. So it's important to be adaptable. So for example, one day you could be out working out at sea and the next day you could be in the lab spinning bloods or taking samples from the livestock. You could also get the chance to work out and help on other farms. And this doesn't just have to be farms that are next door, just down the road. You could get the opportunity to go, for example, work out in the Western Isles or anywhere around the country, really. Decision making, that is important, especially in times under pressure. It's important that we can all make decisions and work in a safe way that manages the health and welfare of the stock. And finally, some field experience. Now, this doesn't necessarily need to be experience of working at sea. Before I started, I'd never worked out at sea, but I was a geography student and now a geography graduate, so I do have experience of working out in the field, in the soak and wet, collecting samples and things like that. So if you're used to working outdoors and sticking in, then that's a good start as well. So what subjects could help towards a career in aquaculture? So science, such as biology and chemistry, computing, like I said before, technology is ever evolving and there's always new projects. The fish on site, they're all fed by computers and automated systems. So just having kind of background knowledge on basic computing skills would be a great help. Business management, so more so if you're interested in working in maybe the HR, finance, marketing side of aquaculture, that would mean that you would have some background information on markets and customer demands and wants at the time. And finally, geography, like I just said, so geography could help you sort of working in the environment, outdoors, taking samples and things like that. So some advances in technology. I know there's going to be hundreds, but I've just picked up on a few that I've come across and just recently learned about as well. So first of all, this is a snorkel net. So the idea here is to keep the fish below 10 meters within the water column, because between 1 and 10 meters, that is where the sea lice breed. Now, sea lice is unfortunately an issue amongst fish farming. The lice latch onto the fish and can just cause a bit of irritation, and it's maybe not the best welfare conditions for the fish. So by encouraging the fish below 10 meters, it keeps them in a hopefully cleaner and safer environment for optimal growth. This project started off in Norway, and they reported it's proved an 80% reduction in sea lice. So hopefully if that carries on, it will really help industry. And then moving on to improvements in feed, creating sustainable salmon food using land-based minerals instead of marine organisms, which would significantly put pressure on marine ecosystems. So in our salmon feed, there is a lot of oil and protein to ensure the salmon grow, providing they're eating the food. However, using these oils and proteins can deplete from the marine environment. So it's actually Tesco, they're part of a new project with the aim to farm algae on land and on shore to then be used in fish food rather than taking natural organisms out from the sea. This here is net cleaning devices. So the big picture and the picture on the top right is a net cleaning device which is just pretty much controlled and moved all around the pen, ensuring the net is kept clean with limited or no, ideally no growth on the pen to ensure the fish have appropriate oxygen levels and flow of water through the pen. And then on the bottom right hand side is a very new concept called an EnviroNet. So here will be a net in the water containing the fish, and hanging up is what we can refer to as the EnviroNet. So once the net in the water begins, you can begin to see growth on it. Usually in the summer anyway, in the warm temperatures, around 10 days to 2 weeks time. So after that net has been in the water for that period of time, the net that's hanging up will be dropped, and the net that's in the water will be lifted up and allowed to hang and dry, hopefully killing any growth that's on this net to ensure that our nets stay clean for the welfare of the fish. So this here is a hatchery facility. So it's basically a unit which can recirculate water and clean up water without having to keep on taking from a natural resource. And finally, this is just new to me as well, I was just learning about this a couple of weeks ago, is an ROV system. So the one in the bottom here, it would be used to inspect nets for cleanliness or any holes. And the ones on the top, they're actually used to collect any mortalities that would be found in the bottom of a cage, and they act in that Hoover-like way.